we are finishing, well, it was kind of a trilogy, but I more think of this as a separate episode for Ottis Toole, specifically the Adam Walsh case. So we're going to be covering that.
Yeah.
Guys.
And it is Ottis, not Otis.
Yes, I know. I may accidentally say Otis. But some people do. In some documentaries, they specifically called them Otis. But yes,
So forgive
his name is Ottis
Drewby.
Toole. He has 2 T's, Ottis.
Not like Milo and Otis.
Oh, that was one of my favorite movies as a kid. And then I learned that there was a million Milos and Otises that were being tortured or dying in making that movie. Because at the time there was no ASPCA regulations or anything like that in Japan or wherever it was made. It was under very inhumane conditions for those animals.
Yeah. Anyway.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Did
That's
you?
sad.
Yeah, it is pretty sad, isn't it? Yeah. Aww.
So anyway, Ottis Elwood Toole was an American drifter and serial killer who was convicted of 6 counts of murder. Like his companion Henry Lee Lucas, Toole made confessions he then later recanted, which resulted in murder convictions. The discrediting of the case against Lucas for crimes Toole had offered corroborating statements created doubts as to whether either was a genuine serial killer, or as Hugh Ainsworth suggested, that's the document.
Ainsworth.
It's not Ainsworth, but he was the reporter from the documentary. Both were merely compliant interviewees whom police used to clear unsolved murders from the books.
Toole received 2 death sentences, but on appeal they were commuted to life imprisonment. I wonder if George Bush did these too.
Yeah.
He died in his cell from cirrhosis of the liver, age 49. Police attributed the murder of Adam Walsh to Toole on the basis of recanted statements. Lucas had backed Toole's confession to the Walsh murder, claiming he had been in possession of the victim's severed head. So was it proven that he did have the severed head?
No, not really.
Okay, it was just, that was something that he said that he drove around for a while and was like, oh, I just happened to have the severed head here.
I mean, they found it, I believe, in a canal.
Did they find it in
Yeah.
a canal? Okay, yeah, they found the head, but they didn't find the body. Was that it?
They never found his body.
They never found his body, okay. I think this is one that Henry Lee Lucas might have sent him up the river for, but I think that even without Lucas's statement, Ottis would still have gotten it, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
So anyway, Ottis Toole was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. Toole's father was an alcoholic who abandoned him, while his abusive mother would, according to Toole, dress him in girls' clothing and call him Susan. Toole claimed that, as a young child, he was a victim of sexual assault and incest at the hand of many close relatives and acquaintances, including his older sister and next-door neighbor. He also claimed that his maternal grandmother was a Satanist who exposed him to various satanic practices and rituals in his youth, including self-mutilation and grave robbing, and dubbed him Devil's Child. Toole claimed this abuse began when he came out as a homosexual to his family.
So Toole was often designated as suffering from mild mental retardation with an IQ of 75. He also suffered from epilepsy, which resulted in frequent grand mal seizures. Throughout Toole's childhood, he frequently ran away from home and often slept in abandoned houses. He was a serial arsonist from a young age and was sexually aroused by fire.
In the documentary Death Diploma, Toole claimed he was forced to have sex with a friend of his father's when he was 5 years old. He felt he knew he was gay when he was about 10 and claimed to have a sexual relationship with a neighborhood boy when he was 12. Toole dropped out of school in 9th grade and began visiting gay bars.
That's pretty young.
It is.
Oh my God, I was 15 in the 9th grade.
Yeah. He also claimed to have been a male prostitute as a teenager and became obsessed with gay pornography. Toole claimed to have committed his first murder at age 14 when, after being propositioned for sex by a traveling salesman, Toole ran over the salesman with his own car. Toole was first arrested at the age of 17 in August 1965 for loitering.
That's how they did in the dude that did 120 Days in Sodom or Sallow. Can't remember that director's name, but he was supposedly killed because a prostitute ran him over with his own car, allegedly. Anyways, much information on Toole between 1966 and 1973 is unclear, but authorities believe that he began drifting around the southwestern United States and that he supported himself by prostitution and panhandling. While living in Nebraska, Toole was one of the prime suspects in the 1974 murder of 24-year-old Patricia Webb. Shortly after, he left Nebraska and briefly settled in Boulder, Colorado. 1 month later, he became a prime suspect in the homicide of 31-year-old Ellen Holman, who was murdered on October 14, 1974. 1984. With many accusations against him, Toole left Boulder and headed back to Jacksonville.
In early 1975, Toole returned to Jacksonville after drifting and hitchhiking through the American South. On January 14th of 1976, he married a woman 25 years his senior. She left him after 3 days after discovering his homosexuality. Toole said during an interview his marriage was a tactic meant to conceal his true sexuality.
So he actually was trying to settle down.
Yep.
In 1976, Toole met Henry Lee Lucas at a Jacksonville soup kitchen, and they soon developed a sexual relationship. Toole later claimed to have accompanied Lucas in 1,008 murders, sometimes at the behest of a cult called the Hands of Death. Police, however, discounted the uncorroborated claims of the cult's existence. On January 4th, I mean, the term, the Hands of Death.
Hands of Death.
That sounds like something that a low IQ person would make up. Let's think of our cult name. The Hands of Death. Yes. Yes, because we just want to kill people. I don't know. This sounds like something a toddler would make up.
Right.
Anyways, on January 4th, 1982, Toole barricaded 65-year-old George Sonnenberg in a boarding house where he was living in Jacksonville and set the house on fire. Sonnenberg died a week later of injuries he sustained in the fire. In April 1983, Toole was arrested for an unrelated arson incident in Jacksonville. Toole confessed to the crime and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Toole signed a confession stating that he and Sonnenberg had begun a sexual relationship, and after the two had an argument, Toole set Sonnenberg's home on fire.
2 months later, in June, his accomplice Henry Lee Lucas was arrested for unlawful possession of a firearm. It was then Lucas began boasting about the numerous murder rampages orchestrated by the two. At first, Toole had denied involvement, but later began backing up Lucas's confessions. Lucas also backed Toole's confessions to the murder of Adam Walsh. Journalist Hugh Ainsworth and others investigated for articles. It's not Ainsworth that appeared in the Dallas Times Herald. It was calculated that Lucas would have had to use his 13-year-old Ford station wagon to cover 11,000 miles in 1 month. Example here, that's around 370 miles per day. Like they can't stop to take a piss. To have committed the crimes police attributed to him. Lucas became widely regarded as a compliant interviewee who was used by police to clear up unsolved murders that he had not been involved in, aided by Toole giving false statements in collaboration.
During Toole's trial for murdering George Sonnenberg, Toole claimed that he did not light the home on fire and only signed the confession so he'd be extradited back to Jacksonville. On April 28, 1984, a jury found Ottis Toole guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced him to death. Later that year, Toole was found guilty of the February 1983 strangulation murder of a 19-year-old Tallahassee, Florida woman and received a second death sentence. On appeal, however, both sentences were later commuted to life in prison. After his incarceration, Toole pled guilty to 4 more Jacksonville murders in 1991 and received 4 more life sentences. Toole was known for a very famous murder.
Very.
A murder that most everybody was familiar with, even if they didn't know who Ottis Toole was, and that was the murder of Adam Walsh.
Yes.
Who is the son of John Walsh of America's Most Wanted. So how about you talk about what happened with that?
Okay, so Adam John Walsh was an American boy who was abducted from a Sears department store at the Hollywood Mall in Hollywood, Florida on July 27th of 1981. His severed head was found 2 weeks later in a drainage canal alongside Highway 60 Yeehaw Junction in rural St. Lucie County, Florida. His death garnered national interest. His story made it into the 1983 television film Adam, seen by 38 million people in its original airing. His father, John Walsh, became an advocate for victims of violent crimes and was the host of the television program America's Most Wanted and currently In Pursuit with John Walsh. Convicted serial killer Ottis Toole confessed to Adam's murder, but was never convicted for the specific crime due to loss of evidence and recanted confession. Toole died in prison of liver failure on September 15, 1996. No new evidence has come forth since then, and on December 16, 2008, police announced that the Walsh case was closed after they were satisfied that Toole was the killer.
Yeah, and I think John Walsh has said in interviews that he believes firmly that Ottis Toole was the killer.
Right.
And that he feels like he found closure with it.
Yeah.
So here's the case history. On the afternoon of July 27th, 1981, Adam's mother, Reve, is that how you pronounce it?
Either Reve or Reeve.
Yeah.
I would say like Reve.
Yeah, I've never seen that
seen
before. Yeah, especially like French names. I know quite a few, and I've never seen that one. But yeah, so his mother, Reve, took him shopping with her to the Hollywood Mall in Hollywood, Florida. They went together to Sears and entered through the north entrance. Reve intended to inquire inquire about a lamp which was on sale and left Adam at a kiosk with an Atari 2600. And man, okay, so you know what time period this is. Atari 2600 video games on display, where several other boys were taking turns playing them. Reve completed her business in the lamp department. There was a lamp department.
Yeah.
Man. Now if you want a lamp, you go to like a friggin' lighting store if there's a department for that, right?
Well, unless you're at IKEA, they have an entire like section of just lighting fixtures.
No, that's true.
It's beautiful.
When I was at IKEA in I think Renton, Washington, yes, there was this giant thing of lamps. And man, we need an IKEA around here. We really, really do. God, I sound like such a fucking yuppie. Oh my God.
No, I love going there. Like the closest one for Maine is Stoughton, Mass, and that's like still like, you know, about a 45-minute to hour drive depending on traffic past Boston.
Yeah.
So coming from like where we are in Auburn, Maine, it's kind of a hike.
Well, I know that's
unless you're gonna like make a day of or a weekend of it and go up to the ones in like Montreal.
Is there one in Montreal?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't found that one either. Okay, next time I'm in Montreal, because I didn't even know there was one there. I feel like I would have known that. Oh, well, anyways. So, she concluded her business in the lamp department. She said that she returned to find that Adam and the other boys had disappeared. A store manager informed her that a scuffle had broken out over whose turn it was at the kiosk, and a security guard demanded that they leave the store. The security guard asked the older boys if their parents were there, and they said that they were not. Adam's parents later conjectured that he was too shy to speak to the security guard, who presumed that he was in the company of the other boys, and as such, the security guard made him leave by the same door by which the boys entered, which was the Steers West entrance. His parents believe that after the other boys dispersed, he was left alone outside the store at an exit unfamiliar to him. Meanwhile, unable to find Adam in the toy department, Reve had him paged over the public address system and continued to look for him throughout the store. By coincidence, she ran into his paternal grandmother, Jean, who helped her search for him. After more than 90 minutes of searching and public address pages, which failed to locate him, she called the Hollywood police at 1:55 p.m.
On August 10th, a severed head was found in a drainage canal alongside the Florida Turnpike near Vero Beach, or Vero, I'm not sure.
I think it's Vero.
I think so. I'm not a Floridian. Almost 130 miles from Hollywood by Detective Ralph E. Latimer Jr. and an unidentified deputy of the Indian River County Sheriff's Office. Indian River County and St. Lucie County divers searched the canal. On the morning of August 11th, John and Reve appeared on national television saying they still hoped Adam was alive. A $100,000 reward had been posted for his safe return. Soon after, the recovered remains were identified as Adam's. Coroner ruled that the cause of death for Adam was asphyxiation. I don't know how they would get
Determine that from a severed head.
I mean,
right?
I guess you have like petechial hemorrhaging, I think it's called, in the eyes.
Yeah.
So that's probably.
And in the brain too, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, like if your head's removed, like I'd like to think that some of those things could be confused on autopsy.
It could be, or like if you were drowned. I don't know. I mean, I guess with that, and I only know that from watching like true crime shows, but you know, I'm not a coroner. So the state of the remains suggested that Adam had died several days before the discovery of his head, and the rest of the body was never recovered.
John and Reve personally believe that the Hollywood Police Department botched the treatment of Adam's disappearance, first the missing persons investigation, then the investigation into his murder. After some investigation, police eventually concluded that Adam was abducted by a drifter named Ottis Toole near the front exterior of Sears that afternoon, after being instructed to leave by a security guard.
So according to Toole, he lured him into his white 1971 Cadillac with a damaged right bumper with the promise of toys and candy, then proceeded to drive north on Interstate 95 towards his home in Jacksonville. Adam, at first docile and compliant, began to panic as they drove on. Toole punched him in the face, but just as this made the situation even worse, he then walloped him unconscious. While he was unconscious, Toole drove north on the Florida Turnpike to a deserted service road just north of the Raidbaugh Road overpass, northwest St. Lucie County. When Toole realized Adam was still breathing, he strangled him to death with a seatbelt, dragged him out of the car, and decapitated him with a machete. Toole also claimed to have disposed of his body by incinerating it in an old refrigerator when he returned to Jacksonville. He claimed that he wanted to make him his adopted son, but given the close relationship with his loving parents, it was not feasible.
Determining the source of the blood found in the car was not possible. The police ultimately lost the bloodstained carpet from the car. The machete said to be used used to decapitate Adam and eventually the car itself. Toole, a confidant of convicted serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, repeatedly confessed and then retracted accounts of his involvement.
So Toole was never charged in Adam's case, although he provided seemingly accurate descriptions as how he committed the crime. Several witnesses also placed him at the Hollywood area in the days leading up to Adam's disappearance. In September 1996, he died in prison, age 49, of cirrhosis while serving a life sentence for the crimes. And I have some pictures of that we can definitely show, like in the episode on YouTube. He looks so much older than 49.
Yeah, he really does.
I would have pegged him for like late 80s.
And I should offer some clarification. Say he wasn't serving a life sentence for these crimes, but for other crimes that we mentioned earlier. Yeah.
So afterwards, his niece told John that he'd made a deathbed confession to Adam's murder. His confession was viewed as unreliable since Lucas had confessed to or implicated themselves in more than 200 different homicides, as we reviewed in our Henry Lee Lucas episodes. Most of Lucas's confessions were later to be revealed to be false, having been coerced by the Texas Rangers.
In 1997, Hollywood Police Chief Rick Stone conducted an exhaustive review of Adam's case after the release of John's book. At the time, Stone was a 22-year veteran of the Dallas, Texas, and Wichita, Kansas police departments and had been appointed Hollywood's chief of police in the previous year. Although the crime happened 16 years before the time of his review, he provided an analysis of the evidence, including reviewing taped interrogations of Toole by Hollywood police detective Mark Smith. Stone says his review found evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that Toole murdered Adam. Both Toole and Lucas were notorious, Stone noted, for confessing to crimes they committed and then recanting, as we covered before.
Right. So in 2007, allegations earned widespread publicity that Jeffrey Dahmer, arrested in Wisconsin in 1991 after killing more than a dozen men and boys, was also named a suspect in Adam's murder. Lionel Dahmer, the father of Jeffrey Dahmer, called the AMW hotline
America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, not too long after his son's arrest. He said that while his son was never convicted for it, he believed his son was a pedophile. He was living in Miami Beach at the time, and 2 eyewitnesses placed him at the mall on the day that Adam was abducted. One claimed to have seen a strange man walking into the toy department. The other said he saw a young blonde man with protruding chin throw a struggling child into a blue van and speed off.
I didn't even think to report it. Just, yeah, I saw this dude just kidnap this kid.
Right,
but...
and the blue van thing is something I'm going to touch on a little bit later as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So both witnesses recognized the man they had seen as Dahmer when pictures of him were released in the newspapers after his arrest. Reports showed that the delivery shop where he worked had a blue van at the time. He preyed on young men and boys, the youngest being 8 years older than Adam, and his modus operandi included severing the victims' heads. When interviewed about Adam in 1992, he repeatedly denied involvement in the crime, even stating, "I've told you everything. How I killed them, how I cooked them, who I ate. Why wouldn't I tell you if I did someone else?" After the rumors surfaced, John stated that he had seen no evidence linking Adam's abduction and murder to Dahmer.
On December 16, 2008, Hollywood, Florida Police Chief Chad Wagner, a friend of John Walsh's, announced with him present that the case was now closed. An external review of the case had been conducted, and police announced that they were satisfied that Toole was the murderer. So the television film Adam premiered on October 10th, 1983. The film was based on Walsh's kidnapping and murder and attracted 38 million viewers on its first airing. Each of its 3 broadcasts in 1983, 1984, and 1985 were followed by pictures and descriptions of missing children. A hotline was also created to take calls regarding them. The pictures in the hotline were ultimately credited with finding a number of missing children. 13 of 55 children shown in the 1983 broadcast were located. American rapper Bizzy Bone of Bone Thugs-n-Harmony fame, who was abducted by his stepfather as a child, was reunited with his mother after a neighbor recognized a photo of him shown at the end of the 1983 broadcast.
In 1984, the U.S. Congress passed the Missing Children's Assistance Act, owing in part to the advocacy of the Walshes and other parents of missing children. It allowed the formation of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The Code Adam program for helping lost children in department stores is named in Adam's memory. The U.S. Congress passed the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act on July 25, 2006, and President Bush signed signed the law on July 27th.
It took that long?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought that was something that came into effect in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah, I thought so too until, putting this together. But yeah, it was pretty recent.
Okay, so the signing ceremony took place on the south lawn of the White House, attended by John and Reve. The bill institutes a national database of convicted child molesters and increases penalties for sexual and violent offenses against children. It also creates a RICO cause of action for child predators and those who conspire with them.
The Adam Walsh Reauthorization Act of 2016, which provides budgetary allotments to continue the programs passed in the 2006 Act, has, as of August 2016, passed the U.S. Senate and awaits consideration by the House.
The publicity of Adam's case and the widely watched television movie Adam also created what was described as a mid-1980s panic over stranger abductions, one out of proportion to their numbers, and one which has persisted for decades.
Yes.
So did you ever see the movie Adam?
I've actually never seen it, but one thing that I remember specifically as a child growing up in the mid to late 80s into the early 90s was this whole big thing about the blue van.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it ties back to this.
It must, because, what I remember is kids always calling blue vans like that rape vans. So that was always something I knew growing up, but I didn't know it was linked to this until you told me about it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was linked either. So it was this big story, growing up, that people in blue vans were just taking kids.
Yeah.
So if we were in our neighborhood, which was basically a small suburban subdivision of, ranch style homes, if we were all playing in our yard and we saw a blue van, we go run and hide.
Yeah, and I don't know, do we want to get on Stranger Danger now, or do you want to finish this first?
Finish this first.
Yeah, okay, because I definitely have my experience as a child to talk about that. But
right.
So Richard Moran, criminologist at Mount Holyoke College, the case created a nation of petrified kids and paranoid parents. Kids used to be able to go out and organize a stickball game, and now all play dates and the social lives of children are arranged and controlled by the parents. The fear still lingers today, end quote. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because how do I put this? My family might hear this. No, there was definitely some helicopter parenting around me growing up, and I could not go and do anything. I couldn't even ride my bike outside of my driveway because I was told that there were kid touchers and kidnappers that are just that will take kids at an opportune moment. And I just thought these people were just prowling around and they just existed everywhere.
And you lived in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I know. I lived out in the woods, and here was and I didn't live far from my elementary school, and all my friends were riding their bikes to school from a lot further away, and I wanted to ride my bike to school, but I couldn't do it. Couldn't go see my friends. Couldn't do anything like that until I was much older. But this had an effect on me because I never understood motive. The way it was described to me is that there's just people out there that will just kill you for no reason, kidnap you for no reason, rape you for no reason. So I just thought there was just these people lurking like monsters in a movie that just kill people in opportune moments. And that stuck with me for so long. Also, when you grow up in a very white rural part of Maine where there's a lot of racism because everybody's white and everybody has these feelings about people of color, you combine stranger danger with racism, and it's really fucked up to do to a kid. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Mine wasn't that terrible. My mom was somewhat strict, but not anywhere near how strict parents are now.
Mm-hmm.
I was still able to go outside and play with my friends. She would whistle really loud when she wanted us to come in. I was about 10 or so when I was able to ride my bike up to the stores, in Lisbon. I was about that age when she finally let me walk to the elementary school. But yeah, it was similar.
Yeah, even nowadays, I don't see, as I've gotten older, I see less and less kids walking by themselves. I see less latchkey kids and just things of that nature.
They're not even allowed to be at the bus stop by themselves.
Is that true? Oh my God.
Well, not that, they're not allowed, but I just don't see kids generally out there by themselves. When I leave for work in the morning, there's all these parents out at the bus stop, and I live in a apartment complex. Nothing's gonna happen.
Even when first of all, my mom would always take us to school. No, that's not true. She wouldn't always take us to school, but sometimes she would. But if we were waiting for the bus, she would always wait with us. I was not able to wait alone until I was much, much older. So yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and again, I lived in the middle of nowhere. I could have waited by myself. Nobody was going to abduct me.
Yeah, I don't know. My mom, like, she let me when I started going to kindergarten and first grade go on the bus just because I wanted to, like, go with the big kids that, live next door, and they, like, took care of me.
Yeah.
But as, like, time went on, my mom, like, specifically drove my sister and I to school and would drop us off at the door. No, like, walking off or anything like that. It was kind of weird. This, like, went on to, like, middle school.
I was more afraid of taking the bus as a kid because I was the last stop for my bus driver at the time. And his name was Alfred, and so me being this little, like, weird kid, like, having all these thoughts put in my head, I was like, ooh, Alfred, like Alfred Hitchcock, he's probably a killer. And then I'd see that, like, bus drivers have this first aid kit looking thing over their front seat, and I thought he kept a gun in there, and I always thought he was gonna, like, kill me or something.
Oh my goodness.
But I was scared of that, but I was not afraid of riding my bike to school because all the kids were doing it and
Poor
stuff like
Drewby.
that, and it was just weird, and just, yeah, I never really got to do much until I was a lot older, so I had to get it out when I was, get all that out of me when I was of age to be arrested, but thankfully I never was.
Yeah, my mom, like, for a long time wouldn't let me go to sleepovers.
Yeah, mine neither.
Because she seemed to think all their fathers were going to touch me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that didn't happen to me. But
And,
my mom was always afraid of other people cooking things for me. And this was before the food allergies started. But she's like, other people have dirty kitchens, and you don't know what you'll catch from that. And so whenever, this was like such a common thing back then, but if somebody had a birthday in like my first or second grade class, their parents would always bake cupcakes to bring in for all of us as classmates. And I was specifically told to not eat it, to decline it, or and that was so embarrassing because I was the only one not eating it, and everybody would make me feel bad for it. And then I would have to be like, well, I want to take it home, and I always have to take it home, and my mom would throw it away. And then there was that whole, like, thing with Halloween candy. Oh, your Halloween candy's gonna have razor blades in it. It's gonna be poisoned. So we couldn't go trick-or-treating to anyone that we didn't know. Plus, they could kidnap us. Just, like, weird shit.
Am I going to have to take you, like, real trick-or-treating?
I went real trick-or-treating. So after I was able to, ride with my best friend, I was, like, 16, 17, 18 was when I did real trick-or-treating. And only somebody called me on my age, like, once. And I was, that was when I was 18, and I was with this 6'3" or 6'2" tall Spanish man. And she was just like, aren't you boys a little old to be trick-or-treating? And he's like, I'm just big for my age.
Yeah, I think the last time I pulled it off was, oh goodness, and I was with, like, a bunch of guys that definitely didn't look like they should be trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
They did not get candy, and I did.
Oh my.
And I think I was like 19.
Yeah.
It was when I was living in Augusta, and I just, like, walked around Sand Hill in my little devil costume, and people, like, filled up my little bag full of candy.
Yes, well, when you don't age, guess what? I mean, that's how I got away with it. But yeah, I think the last time I went trick-or-treating was when I was 18. I mean, I was about to be like, yeah, I wish I could do that now, but I don't even eat candy anymore, so fuck it.
Yeah.
Allergic to most of it anyway, so yeah. But yeah, that was like a big thing too, and I think that evolved from Stranger Danger. This myth that people were putting razor blades in candy or poisoning it or just like a bunch of shit like that, and then turns out when the internet came out, hey, there's no statistics for that. That's never happened.
Right.
Except with like parents doing it to their own kids. That was like the only thing they found, I believe.
Yeah, the only like weird thing I remember specifically was one time, and this is not about Halloween. It was about like the touching thing. I had to go to a pool party that I was invited to. It was 2 houses down. My mom would not let me change into my swimsuit there. I had to be in my swimsuit, walk over. I couldn't change out of it there. I had to change at home. If I had to pee, I had to come home. I couldn't use their bathroom because someone might touch me.
That's what she said?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I never had anything like that. There was always this guy that, because my grandmother would always take me to church. She was Baptist, and I always had to go to Sunday school and then to service afterwards. And there was always this one guy that mom was like, he liked to talk to like some of the people there. And she was like, you be careful of him. He's a kid toucher. And then later on, I find out much later in life, he was actually just mentally handicapped.
Oh, no.
And she didn't realize. So there was just like, and the reason I say that story, like, I feel bad in retrospect. The reason why I say that story is because, like, anyone who was different was perceived as a threat in those days.
Yeah.
And that was because of this case. When in reality, I mean, I'm sure, yeah, some kids were definitely, like, getting kidnapped, getting abused, getting molested, but that was usually by their own relatives. not by these like magical boogeymen that were like picking them up. So yeah, I never had any experience. I've never had some weird dude like try to pick me up or lure me into his van.
Yeah.
I never had anyone try to touch me. I mean, kids were fucking each other, but I never heard anything like that.
Yeah, and like back to the trick or treating thing, like it's a problem today that I've seen. What's very popular, at least around this area, I'm sure it's widespread throughout the country, is this trunk or treat thing.
What's that?
Okay, so it is where during the daytime, a group of people will organize a trick or treating event in a parking lot, sometimes in front of a business, where people decorate their cars and they dress up in costumes and do a trick or treat and have like the candy in their trunk.
Oh, like they'll just hang around and they'll give candy out of their trunk?
Right. So we did it one year, like I participated one year for roller derby, and we did kind of like a DC Comics versus like Marvel type theme.
Uh-huh.
And we like just gave candy out of the back of one of the girls' trucks.
Okay.
I understand how that could be useful, especially for if you have small children where, parents are working weird hours, or if you live somewhere that isn't particularly safe for trick-or-treating. But I really feel like it's kind of taken the place of actually going trick-or-treating on Halloween. I've never had a trick-or-treater.
Yeah.
I'm 36 years old. The last time I had trick-or-treaters was when I was living in Augusta. The same time I actually went trick-or-treating myself. And then I've never, and I've lived in fairly safe areas. Like the apartment complex I live in is really like two complexes in one. Not a lot of kids in this back one, but out front there's tons of kids. No one's ever come trick-or-treating here.
Yeah, I've never had trick-or-treaters either, except since my parents' house, I've never had trick-or-treaters.
Right, and it's just really kind of crazy.
You think it's just like died down?
I think it's like died out.
Well, I mean, also, I think, so the last time I went trick-or-treating was in Auburn, in the like well-to-do suburbs. Like, we just parked the car, and there was just mobs of kids going everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like, we would have to go out in Halloween, and I go away every year for Halloween, so I haven't seen what it's been like here for a very long time. But I would be shocked if you go to some of these richer neighborhoods and you don't see a bunch of kids milling around.
Yeah, like I'd really like to see if it's like that in my old neighborhood, because it used to be pretty hoppin'.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be hard for me to believe that people just aren't trick-or-treating anymore. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, maybe it's kind of changed slightly, but I don't know. I just don't think it's dead. And I'm sure if we Googled it or did some research, we could find out just how Halloween has changed for trick-or-treating or what the customs are now. I'm sure it's not dead.
Yeah, but it's definitely like changed in a way that I don't like.
Well, how?
I don't know. I like the whole like just going house to house type of thing, even if you have to travel a little bit.
Well, for sure. I mean, I bet kids are still doing that, but I mean, when you live in a apartment complex kind of out of the way, this isn't near a bunch of houses. This would be a weird walk. I think that's probably why.
That's probably it. Like I stopped buying candy a few years ago.
Fuck candy.
Yeah.
Eat meat instead. But yeah. So early estimates by the NCMEC, which I don't know what that stands for, would state that as many as 20,000 children a year were abducted by strangers, and public service spots relayed the perceived danger. A 1985 Pulitzer Prize expose discussed a numbers gap between the claim number and other statistics, such as that the FBI investigated a total of 67 abductions by total strangers in 1984. By 1988, even as the NCMEC lowered annual estimates of stranger abductions by 80%, early estimates had a life of their own, end quote. A 1990 study of child abductions found that 99% of them were family related. I am not shocked at this at all. In the 15 years between 2000 and 2015, the number of missing children ultimately killed decreased in its own right, attributed partly to the emergence of technologies such as mobile phones that allow calls for help. And you just don't want your kid to have cell phones, huh? Well,
yeah.
You know what?
And that acronym you keep saying is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Thank you. You could have interrupted me. I would have been fine
I'd be
with it.
rude.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be so offended that my co-host interrupts me, especially when I say I don't know what this stands for.
Right?
Yergy, help me
Yergy.
out here. Ottis Toole died at the Florida State Prison of cirrhosis of the liver on September 15th, 1996, at the age of 49. His body went unclaimed, and he was buried in the Florida State Prison Cemetery. Is that accessible?
I don't know. I would like to see some of these like prison
Yeah,
cemeteries, though.
I
I
would
imagine a lot of
too.
it's unmarked.
Yeah, I bet it's a lot of unmarked graves, and it probably is cool at first, but after a while, I bet all the graves are milk toast.
Yeah, like I know his because I've seen a picture. It's just a small little, looks like a brick that just says Tool on it.
Tool.
Tool.
Anyway,
Anywho.
but yeah, that was that. Any more talks about stranger danger? I mean,
Mm,
stranger danger kind of bled into the internet era, right?
yeah.
I remember when
Someone was going to abduct me for being in a chat room.
yeah, yeah. Oh, don't give them your first name. If you give them your first name, they will find out where you live and kidnap you. And now we're on Facebook and everybody gives their full names out. It's all online. What the fuck happened?
I don't know.
Oh, did somebody see a picture of you? If they see a picture of you, they'll know exactly where you live.
I really think our boomer and elder Gen X parents were just paranoid.
I remember I used to go to a Pokemon chat room. I was between the ages of 8 and 12 when I went to this Pokemon chat room. And being holed up in the middle of the woods and not able to see friends for a while, all I had was that chat room. It was the smallest chat room with regulars. And some of these people like to RP or basically role play, and not role play in the sexy way. They would just pretend to be characters mostly. And a lot of these people were weebs, so a lot of them were anime characters. So one day I get an email for a wedding between two of the people in the chat room. My mom, who was checking my shit, happened to intercept this email, freaked the fuck out on me, and pulled the modem cable out of the wall, told me I was never allowed to do that again, and I could only go online with supervision, because these are a bunch of adults that were going to kidnap me or kill me or just something of that nature. And I was destroyed because that was my last outlet of social interaction when I was at home. When she was not home, find out where the cord is, plug it in, just to talk to my online friends again, all of which I've lost contact with. But she thought then that just being in a chat room set me up for so much danger. It was so ridiculous. That bled into the internet era, and now all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore. Friggin' 12-year-old kids have Facebooks.
Yeah.
And their full name is online. That never would have flown like 15 years ago. It's so crazy to me how much has changed.
I don't know. I think it just like goes in waves because I don't know, like on top of my mom being fairly protective of me compared to other parents of kids that I grew up with, things weren't really that terrible as they are now. I see a lot more helicopter parenting now.
I think it's just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, it like really seems like a lot of parents like wrap their kids in a bubble. Can't really speak that much because I'm not a parent, but it seems that has changed as well.
My dad was younger, or when my friends' parents were younger, they used to just go everywhere and do everything. And heard talk of this time where just people would be like, oh, your baby's so cute, and like talk about it. Like other cultures will pick up and hold babies and stuff like that, and they're just more free-spirited about that sort of thing. And now there just seems to be this super cloistered protectiveness of one's children. You even look at somebody like the wrong way and they think you're up to something. Just everybody's become so paranoid. And I understand why this case would cause parents to think that, especially uneducated parents that don't have access to resources or the internet. But now there's no excuse, and it seems like things are getting a lot worse involving that paranoia. And I don't know, as we get into the 2020s, where this is coming from or what is making this happen.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Like there hasn't been any abductions that hit the news like this that caused people to freak out. It just doesn't exist. So I don't know.
I don't know. Do we have any more housekeeping items or anything like that we need to go over?
I already talked about our Patreon. Please press the like button and subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and a written review. We will shout you out.
We finally got to 100 subscribers.
Yes, we got to 100 subscribers on YouTube. I'm going to have to update the channel art as soon as I get a minute. Because I've had no free time lately. Holy shit.
It has been a very busy week.
Your cat and its UTI, and now it's shitting everywhere.
Oh my God. So, should I tell this story?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're at the end of the episode now. If people are still hanging around, they want to know what's up with us.
So, we actually had to do this episode in 2 parts because we took a little mini break before we got into Adam Walsh. And I go out into the living room, and my cat has shit on the floor. And not just like shit on the floor, shit on the carpet, inches away from where the litter box is on the tile. And it was absolutely terrible.
Your cat was getting swifty.
She was getting all ridiculous. So I had to like break out the carpet shampooer, get all this disinfectant. It was terrible. I hated my life.
That was the only time, though. Other times, she just shits all over the bathtub or shits on the tile next to the litter box instead of in the litter box.
I just don't know what's up with her anymore.
Sounds pretty
cannot
wonderful.
wait for this to be done.
And she's in heat, too, so she'll, like, come up to me and she'll meow, this very specific meow, and then she'll start, like, presenting her butthole to me, but not in the way, like, cats do when they're friendly. She, like, will make this weird cooing noise and just pump her fucking legs up at me and just slowly back up into me. I'm like, oh my god, you are really coming on to me more than any other lady has sober in my life.
And then she like rolls around on the kitchen floor and bonks her head like she's some sort of raver on E.
Well, I've known a lot of cats that do that when they're playful, but she does this a little differently. She like completely slinks herself out and she like gives me these sexy looks and I'm like, what are you doing? Usually this cat I used to live with named Bandit, he used to roll around on the floor and he would do that just so I'd tap him with my foot, so he'd roll back and forth every time I tap him with the foot. And my sister's cat Oliver used to do that and stuff like that, but this...
She's being kind of slutty.
Yeah. Oh, you're slut shaming your cat.
I don't care.
She just wants to get some human dick.
She does.
She's going to get dug out. I don't think she'd be satisfied with the human dick because there's no barbed wires in the human dick. I think I would have to put like fish hooks on my dick for her to be satisfied.
So people, spay and neuter your cats.
Spay and neuter your cats, although that's genital mutilation, you fucking monsters.
I don't know. Like the thing with her is she's like very tiny. She didn't go into heat until many years after I had her, and it was very few and far between. I don't let her out. None of my other cats are unaltered, so I didn't think it was a huge deal. She's like 15 now, so I mean, you know, why bother at this point?
And she looks like Bill Skarsgård.
She does sometimes.
She gives me the Bill Skarsgård eyes, and she tips her head down and looks up at me with this evil look, and I'm just like, what the fuck do you want?
She wants to give you a balloon.
I guess she does want to give me a balloon. I mean, right now she wants to give me a blowy, not a balloon, but...
Oh my god, she's really coming on to you hard.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty awful. I just...
It's a little more delicate than that.
A little more delicate.
She's tiny, but...
Like, Jesus Christ. You know what? Good for her for being forward. I just wish she would respect the fact that I don't agree with her advances. You know, they're not reciprocated.
Is this sexual harassment?
I mean, it kind of is.
Is she a cougar? Because she's so old?
You have to, like, forgive her because in her day it was different.
It was different in her day.
Being an old lady and all.
I don't know why her and Chitin aren't having sex anymore.
I don't know. But yeah, old ladies. I remember when I used to work with all women and I was getting told it was nice to have some testosterone in the building, or I'd get my ass slapped, or just they would talk about how my shit looked and stuff like that. Hell, even at ACS, I remember where one woman told me that she knows who's packing at the call center because she checks out like every dude's pants when they walk by, and told me that guy and that guy and that guy's got nothing down there. And I'm like, what the fuck? And she's like, honey, all women do this. And
No,
I'm
they
like,
don't.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but like especially old women say the most inappropriate things at the workplace. And by the way, I know there's this whole thing, don't tell women to smile, and totally on board with that, because I was getting told to smile all the fucking time, to the point where like when this old woman's like, smile honey, and I'd give her the sawtooth grin and I would just point at my fucking mouth like all aggressively. A woman probably couldn't get away with that, but I did
know.
because fuck them. Fuck you telling me to smile and shit.
Yeah, so my cat used to go on these dates with my boy cat. They'd go like hide behind the recliner and like make pretend sex.
Pretend sex.
Even though like he's fixed and can't like do anything like that, he would just like hump her and bite her neck and say they were going on
was she
dates.
all about it?
Yeah, she loved it.
At least Callie is a cool cat.
Yeah, she's a good girl.
She's just chill. Just wants to cuddle, and that's it. Be a cow. Just cow around.
Yeah, eat meat all the time.
Eat meat, just chew her cud, and make little meeps.
She's fat shaming my cat.
I'm not. I'm just saying, we call her the cow. She's a little calico cow, and she makes little meeps. She's the cutest meows. They're like, mer, 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 mer. She only does like long meows when she wants food, and even those are cute. You know, I like her, okay?
I know.
like her. I'm not fat shaming her.
I know you guys are buddies.
We are. We're friends. We're very good friends.
All right.
Okay, are we done here?
I think we're done with this.
Okay, this is an hour episode, and we thought this was going to take 30 minutes.
I know. We've completed this trilogy.
Fuck my life.
I'm so happy.
I hope y'all are happy because our trilogies never do gangbusters. Like, we never get views on part 2 or part 3. So if you're listening this long, thank you. Things are going to change going forward. Things are going to change. How about I slip this little one out? If you've been listening for this long and you want to do a short little guest segment on one of our episodes, send us a message. We might want to work with you.
Yeah, send us like an email, DM through Instagram or Facebook, whatever platform is, whatever.
Slide into my DMs.
Yes.
God, I'm so bad at checking the fucking Instagram DMs.
I am good at it.
Yeah, so 9 times out of 10 you're going to get Yergy, but one of these days you're going to get Drewby. One of these days you're going to get Drewby, and if you really want to talk to Drewby, just summon him and he will talk to you, cuz I'm trying to be better about it. I've been up to my fucking balls with things to do.
Yeah, it's been really, really ridiculous.
And editing this shit, oh my god, now that we're doing better editing, this has been taking hours upon hours, and I want to shoot myself in the fucking head, but I do this because I love y'all.
Yeah, I've been trying to less for you.
You try less for me?
Yeah, because you have to cut all my ums out.
Well, you certainly succeeded today.
Yeah.
But I will still have to cut a lot out because I stutter, and
we have a lot of pauses.
Yeah, there's some pauses. God, why are we peeling the curtain back? God, people are gonna think whatever. Only like not whatever. I don't care. This is what being a podcast is. Oh, I really want to have a podcast. Yeah. Do you want to sound like shit, or do you want to edit your shit for like 9 hours? You know, the choice is yours, my friend.
It's basically another full-time job.
Yeah. I haven't played poker since 2019 because I have been going hard at this.
Between band stuff, between just like work and everything else.
I was in the fucking studio all last weekend. I mean, Jesus Christ, I had to play a show recently, and
out of state show,
New Hampshire. I mean, but it's still out of state. Yeah, I could go on forever, and this is probably going to turn into like a fucking Patreon segment if we keep going. If you want to float us ideas for our next little secret Patreon segment, let us know. And if you subscribe to our Patreon, you could hear it too. Okay, I'm done plugging this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go jump out the window now.
I want to take a bath.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.